Hello and welcome back to the Hohlen Homestead. So today what we're going to be doing is expanding our soft fruit trellises to encompass more plants. We have these two trellises here that have our brambleberries on them. So we have raspberries and blackberries and some boysenberries, and we're going to expand the third one to include, we're going to move those boysenberry plants that are in the pot to the third trellis, and those were graciously donated by my sister-in-law. We're going to move those to the third trellis, and then next spring on the third trellis, when it's a better time to transplant, we're going to put in some more some other types of berries to fill it out. And then on the other side, closer to the kitchen garden, we're going to create two grapevine trellises in a Henry Scott kind of style, somewhere between a Henry Scott and a high wire cordon setup to train those on. And we have Concord grapes and Somerset grapes that we're going to plant over there this year, with the trellises ready for expansion next year. So what I've gone ahead and done is I have kind of treated these boards. I took some dormant oil, which is mostly mineral oil, and sprayed them down to give them some sort of protection against boring insects and a little bit more water resistance. They're not perfect, they're just white wood 4x4x8s, and I chose to go with white wood, which is basically just pine, over cedar, because they are a third of the price, and the cedar in all reality probably won't last 3 times as long as them. And so if they do need to be replaced at some point in the future, I can go ahead and do that at a relatively affordable manner, and they also have a pretty nice look to them. So they've been sprayed and treated, and they've been sitting out here resting and drying in the sun to get put into the ground. So as you can see, these 8-foot posts are approximately 6 foot remaining out of the ground. So we bury them about 24 inches into the ground to give them a nice stable surface. They still need to be braced. I know I've talked about that in a previous video. I just haven't gotten around to it yet due to some of the other projects that we've been working on. But before we get these two established with plants, I will go ahead and brace all of them. So we'll have 3 bramble trellises, 2 grape trellises with room in the middle to continue our expansion of our soft fruit producing capabilities. So we're going to go ahead and get to work on this. We're going to start by digging our post holes using shovels, post hole digger, all by hand to get this done. Like I said, we're going to dig about 2 feet in the ground to give them nice solid footing. In this area here, there used to be a gravel drive, so it's not the best ground to dig in, and it doesn't hold too much water. That's why we make sure we mulch the berry trellises so that they retain moisture. They've been growing relatively well. A lot of them are very young. We started them from bare roots or plugs this last year, and so I'm really looking forward to how they do in the future. But the grapes will like some nice drainage, and the gravel should provide that well, being it's mixed into the soil that's here. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and I will continue to give you updates along the way as we make progress. Something you may be wondering is, Dr. Justin, why should I trellis my raspberry, blackberries, or my grapes? Well, your raspberries and blackberries, if depending on the variety, they may have an erect variety, which means they will stand tall on their own, but some of them will be a cordon variety, or a variety that does not stand erect, and they will fall and they will try and take over your whole life. That's why you see large bramble patches out in nature, or maybe some other areas that you've been to. The raspberries and blackberries have just grown into large sections, and so by creating a trellis, we can grow them up, which makes it easily accessible to be harvested, but also makes sure that you're not expanding outside of an area that you don't want to be. So this allows for good airflow to reduce disease, and lots of light to help produce solid fruit. And the same thing goes for the grapes. You want a lot of airflow to help reduce some of the fungal diseases, and they really perform well. That's why you always see grapes being trellised for the most part, because they want to be on that trellis. They are they're a vining plant. Trellising lets you work with them as well as keep the area underneath of them cleared. So I like to do a lot of structure in my garden, and so trellises were a must-have for me as far as growing some of these items. So one of the first things that we did was get our post location laid out using these very helpful white flags. This one was moved, so we use our posts locations with the white flags, and then we got them lined up using a tape measure and some string. So even simple tools can help you make a project much easier. And so down at those white flags are going to be the grapes. This is the expansion of the brambles, and then we have a level to make sure that those posts will be straight in the ground. After about 2.5 hours, we've been able to get the posts installed, and now that those are in, we're going to go get our braces ready to brace them, and then we're going to run our wires. Okay, after a significant amount of time later, you can see that we have pretty much finished up our trellis project. So this video is mostly about the construction of the trellises and not really about the growing of the fruits. We will have further videos that touch on those topics at different parts of the year. But as you can see, we've got our posts in the ground. These are for the grapes, so they are only double wired, and the berry trellises are triple wired. So what we do is we have some, I don't know, I think it's like 12 gauge fencing wire that we used up here, and some turnbuckles to create tension, and then we tied it to an eyelet at the other end, ran it through a eyelet lag screw in the middle, and then created tension. So there's a fair amount of resistant capability here, and we can tighten them as needed because they will loosen some. And we've planted our 2 grapes, gotten them all ready, so we're ready for expansion on the other side next year, after we get this whole grape growing thing sort of under control. But we can tension these wires as needed whenever they start to slip. And then we've created our braces for our posts. These took a little bit of experimentation because we really want to stop our posts from moving towards the center when you tension the wires, like I had happen on my first 2 trellises. So what we did is we negatively loaded the posts. So you can see the post here. We took it and tipped it out slightly. Then we staked it at that angle, so when we put tension on it, it pulls it back to being level, and creates a nice system here without overdoing it. And they're packed into the ground pretty well, so these braces will help prevent sagging in these posts. And I have planted out those 2 boysenberries that I've gotten, and we have the 3rd bramble trellis ready. We then went back and corrected the first 2 trellises, and we just need to run a little bit of new wire on them that I'm going to do when we cut down the floricanes on the berries that we have over there. But things have been doing pretty well so far. We've been harvesting a few raspberries and a few black raspberries, but things are going well, looking promising. This system should work out pretty nicely for us going forward. And we even have a slot here in the middle if you need to drive something towards the compost bins or the wood chip pile, or to put in another trellis in the future. And my next project out here is going to be to plant the 2 blueberry plants that we have down at the end here, and really work on finishing out this soft berry growing area. So we'll have more, like I said, we'll have more videos in the future about how to grow some of these fruits, and we will all learn together. And as I learn from my mistakes, I'll show them to you, and we'll get everybody out there growing some fruit. So for now, on the Hohlen Homestead, I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.